On September 25th, the Vikings arrived near Seville, sailing up the Guadalquivir River, and established a base on the island of Isla Minor. A Muslim force set out on September 29th to confront the Vikings, but was defeated. A few days later, they raided Seville after a short siege and fierce fighting. Ibn Adhari relates this by saying, "The Magi set out in about 80 ships, as if they had filled the sea with birds and their winds. And they filled hearts with grief and sorrow. They landed in Lisbon. Then they went to Cadiz, to Sedona. Then they came to Seville. They occupied it, and fought it, until they entered it by force, and exterminated its people by killing and taking them captive. They remained there for 7 days, giving its people a cup of doves to drink." When news of the fall of Seville to the Vikings reached Emir Abd al-Rahman, who had set out with his army, he sent a force led by Isa ibn Shahid al-Hajib. Emir Abd al-Rahman also sent to the governors of the surrounding areas to mobilize them to support Isa ibn Shahid. The forces gathered in Cordoba and marched until they camped on a hill near Seville. The army was joined by a force of Banu Qasi led by Musa ibn Musa coming from the upper border despite the hostility between Musa and Emir Abd al-Rahman, and this force played a decisive role in the fighting. The Muslims and the Vikings fought for several days, attacking and retreating, until the Muslims achieved a decisive victory on November 11th or 17th. According to Muslim historians, between 500 and 1,000 Vikings were killed, and 30 of their ships were destroyed. The Vikings offered the Muslims to exchange the spoils they had plundered and the prisoners they had taken for clothing, food, and a safe return route along the Guadalquivir River. Ibn Adhari says, Emir Abd al-Rahman directed his commanders. He defended them and they defended him. Catapults were set up against them, and reinforcements arrived from Cordoba. The Magians were defeated, and about 500 foreigners were killed. 4 of their ships were damaged, and everything in them. Ibn Rustam ordered them to be burned and the spoils sold. Then the battle took place against them in Karbat Taliata on Tuesday, 5 days before the end of Safar of the year, in which many of them were killed and 30 of their ships were burned. A large number of the Magians were hanged in Seville, and some of them were raised in the trunks of the palm trees that were there. The rest of them got on their ships and sailed to Labla. Then they headed from there to Ashnuna, and their news was cut off. The Battle of Taliata, on 25 Safar 230 corresponding to November 11, 844, which Ibn Adhari mentions as the decisive battle. The Viking ships met the rest of the fleet on the coast. Muslim ships pursued the large fleet until it left the Iberian Peninsula after a short raid on the Garb. The Vikings left Seville in ruins, which alarmed the Andalusians. Emir Abd al-Rahman then ordered the defenses to be strengthened to prevent such invasions from recurring. He ordered the establishment of the House of Industry to reinforce the naval arsenal in Seville, and built walls around the city and other towns. This led to the construction of more ships and weapons, the strengthening of land and sea forces, and the establishment of a network of messengers to deliver news in the event of any raids. These measures succeeded in thwarting subsequent Viking attempts to invade the country in 859 and 966. The Vikings then sailed to Frankish territory, present-day France. The defeats of the Vikings at the hands of the Muslim army discouraged them from attacking the Iberian Peninsula again. The following year, the Vikings sent in. News of the invasion was mentioned in the books of a number of Muslim historians, such as Ibn al-Qutiyya of Cordoba, Ibn Adhari, and al-Nuwayri. News of the